Ukraine fear. Russian troop movement increasingly incessant towards the border. Armored personnel carriers bristling with weapons line a highway in southern Russia. Rows of tanks are parked beside major roads. Heavy artillery is transported by train. Videos of military movements have flooded Russian social media for the past month, shared by users and documented by researchers. Western governments are trying to find out why. The movements appear to be the largest deployment of Russian land forces toward the border with Ukraine in 7 years, according to the U.S. government. Whether it is a test of how the Biden administration might respond, retaliation against Ukraine for curbing Russian influence in domestic politics in Kiev, or preparation for actual cross-border military action has divided analysts of Russian policies. Another possible motive has been found closer to home: the very public military buildup. Trains bearing armored vehicles have been rolling into the border region in broad daylight, has shifted attention from the imprisonment and failing health of President Vladimir V, Putin's chief political opponent, Alexei Navalny. The situation on the contact line in Ukraine is extremely unstable, Mr. Peskov said. If military actions begin in a potential repetition of a humanitarian catastrophe similar to Srebrenica arises, not one country in the world will remain on the sidelines. All countries, including Russia, will take measures. The comment was the second this week by a senior Russian official citing the Srebrenica massacre in Bosnia-Herzegovina in 1995 as a touchstone for justifying humanitarian intervention in Ukraine today. The bloody, hate-filled milieu of the 1990s Balkans is a poor analogy for the geopolitically driven conflict in eastern Ukraine. In Bosnia in 1995, the United Nations had declared a safe zone in the city of Srebrenica but failed to prevent the Bosnian Serb army from entering and massacring more than 8,000 Muslim men and boys. The front line in Ukraine, in contrast, separates villages and towns comprising a similar mix of Ukrainian and Russian speakers, with no significant ethnic or sectarian differences. Mr. Peskov said the risk arose from actions of the Ukrainian military and rising Ukrainian nationalism. On Thursday, Russia's chief negotiator in the Ukrainian peace process, Dmitry Kozak, offered another potential justification for intervention: to protect people with dual Ukrainian and Russian citizenship. Since 2019, Russia has been granting citizenship to residents of the two separatist enclaves in eastern Ukraine, the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. Russian officials have said Ukraine, not Russia, initiated the escalation. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova, on Friday blamed Ukraine for mustering forces near the contact line and said Kiev lives with an illusion of a possible forceful settlement of the conflict. As talk of war has become louder, Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany called on Mr. Putin this week to demand that forces pull back from the border. The White House spokeswoman, Jen Psaki, said Thursday the Biden administration is increasingly concerned by the movements. Russia now has more troops on the border with Ukraine than at any time since 2014, Ms. Psaki said, and Ukrainian soldiers have been dying in skirmishes. These are all deeply concerning signs. Before the tanks started rolling, Russia had been telegraphing a possible response to the Biden administration's promise of a tougher line with Moscow. The Biden administration had said it would pursue cyber operations and sanctions to retaliate for Russian cyber attacks and election meddling. Russia, some analysts say, is now essentially daring the United States to follow through while its tanks are on the Ukrainian border.